Welcome to the Model Health Show. This is fitness and nutrition expert Sean Stevenson here, flying solo today. I am missing my amazing producer and co-host Jade Harrell, but we've got a special guest, which makes it all the much better. And this guest is a phenomenal human being with incredible story. She's such a gift in the whole health and wellness space, but just life space, period. And I've been reading her book. I'm almost finished. It is literally like I could not put it down. You know, I wrote a book about sleep, and I really started to kind of dip into my sleep time because I was reading the book. It's so good, so captivating, and I can't wait to share that with you guys. So on that note, let's give a quick shout out to our show sponsor, Onnit.com. Head over to onnit.com/MODEL, and you're going to get 10% off all of your health and human performance supplements. Really quickly, guys, they've got the superhero stuff going now. They've got some Iron Man kettlebells, right? All kinds of cool stuff. They just sent me some new gear. I don't know if you know about Onnit's gear. It's the best. You know, you got to have your shirts fit right. You know, you don't want to have shirts where it's like super baggy around your waist and then tight on your arms, or baggy on your arms and then tight on your waist, and you kind of look like, I don't know, like you're just in a fight with a llama or something, or kangaroo even. Have you seen these kangaroo memes out there? These kangaroo videos on Instagram? Serious. There's one with the dog. Did you see that one? Where the dog was like getting choked out by a kangaroo, and his owner came over and he like squared up with the kangaroo, gave him a quick right jab, and the kangaroo was like, "What? Did a human just hit me?" And just kind of stood there for a little while. The man saved his dog. Long story short, that can mess up your t-shirt. All right, so make sure you get the gear from On and check them out. And of course, they got the Hemp Force protein, possibly the most bioavailable source of protein for the human body. It's going to be found in hemp edestin, albumin, a very soft globular protein. All right, it's why people turn to egg whites, which is, who wants to eat that? My son was just asking me about this the other day, was driving home. He's like, "Dad, can you give me some egg whites?" And I looked at him with that look of like, "Son, I thought I taught you better than that." And he was like, he's been seeing YouTube videos now because he's kind of interested in what people are doing to get their gains. And I told him, this is a complete food. Most of the protein is in the white, but there are some really valuable things in the yolk as well. So he asked, why would people have the whites? And I told him about albumin. And it's very, very, very digestible, but you can also find that in hemp. Plus, it's not gross like egg whites. And the Hemp Force protein actually tastes phenomenal. So make sure you're utilizing this Hemp Force protein. It's one of the things I keep on hand all the time that I use for myself and my kids. So make sure to check them out, onnit.com/model. And also make sure that you're utilizing a green superfood blend. For that, I use Organifi. Head over to organifi.com/model. You're going to get 20% off forever on the green superfood blend from Organifi. And this is something, again, I'm traveling. I'm actually, after this show, I'm going to hop on an airplane, head to LA for a couple of events. Really cool stuff that I'm doing. I'm doing a video shoot for 24 Hour Fitness. Shout out to 24 Hour Fitness, and a couple other little cool things. But I always travel with my Organifi Go Packs. Make sure that you're getting your organic wheatgrass, organic spirulina, chlorella, all these green superfoods that really help to nourish your body at a deep level. And your body needs this stuff. The chlorella, for example, is really powerful for helping your body to detoxify heavy metals. All right, you don't want to be carrying around heavy metals, all right, in your body. Heavy metal. Yeah, we might. Our tech is like doing the rock and roll sign. Yes, that kind of heavy metal is all right. All right. Shout out to AC/DC. All right. But we don't want to carry that around in our thyroid, for example. So this is why it's so important, so valuable. And it actually tastes good. That's the real key. Phytonutrients, enzymes, microminerals, all the things your body needs to thrive. Head over, check them out. Organifi.com/model for 20% off. And on that note, let's get to our special guest and our topic of the day. Our guest today is the one and only JJ Virgin, and she is a celebrity nutrition and fitness expert who helps clients lose weight fast by breaking free from food intolerances and crush their sugar cravings. She's the author of four New York Times bestsellers: JJ Virgin's Sugar Impact Diet Cookbook, The Sugar Impact Diet, The Virgin Diet, and The Virgin Diet Cookbook. All have been crushing it for several years now. And JJ is also a frequent blogger for the Huffington Post, Mind Body Green, and other outlets, as well as a popular guest on TV, radio, and in magazines. You can learn more about her at jjvirgin.com. And I'd like to welcome to the Model Health Show the one and only JJ Virgin. How you doing today, JJ?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing so good. I'm so happy and fortunate to have you on today.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Awesome. Well, you've been a superstar in the health and fitness space for many years, and I'd love to know some of your backstory, though. Your superhero origin story. What got you interested in this whole field of health and wellness in the first place?
So I am a high maintenance hippie. I grew up in Berkeley. So, when you grow up in Berkeley, this is just how we roll. Like farm to table was how I grew up, or should have, Sean, because what actually happened was I had parents, you'll relate to this. My parents were from the Midwest.
Oh,
So
yeah.
while I was like surrounded by the hippies, I was being raised on Pop-Tart and Captain Crunch.
Yes.
And seriously, my nickname growing up was Poppy because I ate Pop-Tarts for breakfast. Like the only time I didn't eat Pop-Tarts for breakfast was when I was having like sweet rolls or Captain Crunch. And then at age 12, I went and I just freaked out. I had like my early life crisis. I was a big athlete and I became obsessed with nutrition and exercise. And so I started going to the health food stores. I thought I was getting healthier. I traded the chocolate for carob and the the candy for licorice and the ice cream for the very first yogurt place in Berkeley Yogurt Park. And I was teaching exercise classes in my teens. Back then it was calisthenics.
That's right. Yeah.
That just really dates it. I was teaching that and tap dancing. And went off to college. I taught aerobics in Japan.
What?
A little known fact. And I was one of the first personal trainers in the country. It was me and Body by Jake.
Really?
Really?
I'm learning so much stuff right now. Oh my goodness. Poppy, tap dancing.
To work with here. Yeah. Us two in LA. And it was interesting. It was him and his brother and me. And I was in graduate school at the time in biomechanics. I love math and physics. And so I'm doing biomechanics and exercise phys, and they have like no background at all. And they're just out there. I'd been teaching aerobics in LA, and then I started doing this. I'm like going, how come these dudes that don't really have any background are doing 30-minute sessions, charging twice as much as me, and have a full plate? So that's when I decided I better learn how to market too.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was where it all started. And, I was in graduate school, then I went to doctoral school in exercise phys. I started taking nutrition classes, and it was so clear to me that you could not exercise enough to compensate for a crappy diet. And so many people, Sean, came to me and said, I want to lose weight. I'm not going to change my diet. I'm just going to exercise. And that does not work. And so I started applying what I was learning in school. And you're going to love this because this was 25 years ago plus. And back then, what we were taught was you had to eat less and exercise more and create a 500 calorie deficit a day and you would lose weight. And it wasn't working. It was not working. And so here I am with all of these clients, 45 to 55 years old, more of a reason it wasn't working. And I'm thinking, well, they're not going to pay me to make them worse. This isn't going to work.
Right.
And so I went to undergrad at UCLA. I went back in the stacks because we had no Google. And I went into the biomedical stacks in the library, and I found everything I could as to why you wouldn't lose weight. Started digging up, insulin, which we were never taught about.
Right.
Funny. I mean, there was no exercise endocrinology back then. And I'm like going, this running, because we were taught you had to exercise at least 30 minutes or it didn't matter because you didn't get into your fat burning zone.
Right.
Like just ridiculous crap, And I remember I created a plyometrics class, but it wouldn't work because we'd killed everyone in 15 minutes. I mean, it was like just being ahead of your time, telling people that it wasn't about the calories and that you had to do really intense exercise. And everyone's like, you're nuts. And I go, no, it's true. But I was proving it out with my clients. So.
Yeah, look at the results. I mean, they speak for themselves. And the funny thing is, I've seen all of this stuff going to a traditional university and taught the same thing. Have your clients to expend more energy than they're taking in. And this is also when the low-fat, high-carbohydrate or low-fat, high-fiber.
Potatoes are a perfect food. Remember that? Like,
oh, my God.
I was taught literally
bananas
potato
too.
is a perfect food.
So we were obviously, what's so crazy is that this type of information is still finding its ways, peeking its head out here and there. But this is why this is also so important, the work that you're doing and what we're doing with this show, to get people more informed, because it's really, and I know you've experienced this as well, like if I go and do a talk for a big corporation, for example, and you find out how many people actually think that fat is bad for them still,
Yes,
and it's the
still,
majority of
still.
people. And what's so interesting is that the paradigm is shifting, but it's shifting slowly. Even though we have the internet, and you were just talking about before Google, you're like, I remember I was there too, Dewey Decimal System, looking for books or whatever, and
Yep.
but we figured it out, and it took some time, but here we are today, and the Virgin diet has just been amazing, and the Sugar Impact Diet as well. These were mega hit books, and in the Sugar Impact Diet, the latest of your two books, you say that you can drop 7 hidden sugars and help people to lose 10 pounds in just 2 weeks. Can we talk a little bit about that? Can you share what you mean by hidden sugars? What are you talking about there? And what are a few of those we need to look out for?
So I never thought I would be writing a book about sugar, but after I wrote The Virgin Diet, the big confusion was like, people would say, but I'm having honey. It's all natural, right? And I'm like, but arsenic's natural. Mercury's natural. Just because it's natural doesn't make it healthy. Don't be duped. I find with so many of the things out there, Sean, we get distracted by marketing terms like all natural that are just crazy meaningless things. And one of those marketing terms that's really doing us a disservice, because what makes me upset about this the most is that we have access to more information than ever. And yet people are actually sicker and fatter than ever. And it's not for lack of trying. It's just that they're following the wrong set of rules. It's so confusing to know what to follow. And the bottom line is you follow the science. And one of the marketing terms out there that makes me nuts is this marketing term of low glycemic index. Because if you see a product, and here's where you get the worst sneaky sugars of all. If you see a product that says low glycemic index, but you turn it over and it has sugar grams in it, significant ones, you're in trouble because it's probably loaded with fructose. And so when I think about sneaky sugars, the first one that I really look at is anything high in fructose, like agave, crystalline fructose, apple juice concentrate, which, by the way, you can put no sugar added on the label and have apple juice concentrate. And why this is an issue is our body metabolizes fructose different than any other sugar.
Yeah.
And the easy way to think of it is fructose makes you fat. It actually makes you fat and old and makes your gut more permeable because the only organ that can metabolize fructose is the liver. So it, yes, has a low glycemic index. It doesn't raise blood sugar. Sounds good until you realize, well, that means it doesn't trigger any of the satiety signals.
Yeah.
And it's just beelines to the liver where it's going to make fat.
Right.
And that's why, it is ridiculous, isn't it, that we have kids with fatty liver? Like, what the heck is going on here?
It's so crazy the time that we're living in to see that. And, decades ago, we didn't see such things where kids have adult onset diabetes, and you just said it. So making the beeline to the liver, that's where lipogenesis. So your liver just literally makes fat. Lipogenesis, creation of fat. Because of that process. And I'm so glad you're bringing this up. I don't think that we've actually talked about this in 200 episodes about something like agave, for example, and I remember it was hot. It was super hot for a while. I was like, oh, this is what you make tequila out of. It's got all the minerals in it. And it might be better than, the type of sugar that looks like cocaine, but only like 1 degree, it's still sugar. And I'm so glad you brought that one up.
Yeah, that one still gets me because you still go into the health food stores and see this agave and people thinking that it's a good thing. And so that drives me crazy. The other thing that I see is there's so much distraction. So you'll grab a green drink and hey, a green drink that's greens is awesome. But when you look at a lot of the popular green drinks out there, you flip them over and you find that it's apple juice concentrate, mango puree, pineapple juice. Like you go through 5 or 6 fruits before you ever get to the measly little kale or spinach, right? Because those don't taste good. So that's the other one that gets me is when people are trying so hard and they go to the store and they said, oh, I'm juicing and I'm having this green drink and I'm doing a great thing. And you flip it over and the one I'm thinking about, this green machine that says, with the power of greens, has 44 grams of sugar in it. It is a soda. It's worse than a soda for you. And, and people are drinking them thinking that they're doing themselves some good.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I'm so glad. I didn't know you were going to bring that one up either, and this is something I've seen firsthand. It's because it is a process. Juicing is a great idea, but if we're talking about green juicing, then we're talking about green juicing. And I
Yeah.
remember when I first, and I've shared this multiple times on the show, but I didn't eat a salad until I was 25 years old. So when you talk about
Wow.
Midwest, Poppy, you had a nickname. I used to tell people that I was part of my color makeup is I was part orange because I ate so much cheese. So up until I was like 6, I would tell people, yeah, I'm part orange too. And it's because same thing. The Pop Tarts, crushing those donuts, honey buns were my jam.
Mm.
But when I started to try to incorporate more veggies, and at this point, I transformed my health significantly from the age of 23 to 25. But I hadn't just like ate a salad, but I was blending it into things. And it started with juicing like 2 apples and a piece of celery, right? And I'm just like, I'm healthy now. And I would get spiked, like I'd get this buzz and just kind of spike, but not a good buzz. Like I felt
Yeah.
a little bit on edge, and then I would come back down. But now I eventually was able to flip it around and have a whole stalk, a bunch of kale and celery, and then maybe 1 apple or a lemon. And to the degree now today, I appreciate all the different flavor notes that food has to offer. And it's just a process. It doesn't mean that you guys need to just start jamming down wheatgrass. That could be tough. But just
Hmm.
realize what it is and the impact it's going to have on your cells, because you are still consuming a lot of sugar.
Well, and that's what I teach people, exactly what you just said. When you're working on lowering your sugar impact, it is not about just deciding to wipe it all out. It's about retraining your taste buds to
Yes.
appreciate savory and spicy. And the real secret one there is sour, because
Yeah.
sour and fermented can take your sweet tooth away.
Yeah. Oh, so true. The bitter, the better. It's another
Hmm.
saying, so getting your kids even give them an opportunity, set their palates up right by getting them some bitters. And the other day, my son, I was making them a green smoothie, and I dropped a little bit of spinach on the counter, and I was just like, I took a bite. I was kind of playing with my 5-year-old, and I took a bite, and I was like, this is interesting. And I kind of put it to him. He's never just ate a leaf. He's had salad a lot of times, but always,
Hmm.
had some other stuff in it, some dressing, whatever. And so he took a bite too, and we just went back and forth eating this very bitter spinach leaf by itself. And those little things helped to retrain your taste buds. And so getting your kids some bitters is a really great idea. And there's so many different things to choose from as well.
Yeah, and that's such a key one that you just brought up. I was on a TV show for a couple seasons called Freaky Eaters.
Yeah.
And it was like people that would like only eat French fries, or it was never, I will only eat Brussels sprouts, by the way. It was like, I'll only eat cheesy potatoes, I'll only eat French fries, I'll only eat mayonnaise. Um, but the big thing that you've got to do, especially when your kids are little, is exposure equals preference. It means it for us adults too. When you eat something the first time, quite often you're like, I'm not sure I like that. You just keep exposing yourself
Yeah.
to it and you'll start to like it. That's how I was with green tea. I was like, I'm not a fan of this because I actually have that gene, the super
Yeah.
taster gene.
Hmm.
And so bitter, I have to really
Hmm.
but
So
I've
cilantro too,
got
probably.
like,
Cilantro probably does you wrong, huh?
yeah. Oh, and just straight parsley. There's so many of
Yeah.
those ones that I'm just like, but
Yeah.
I find the ones that I like. Like I will do lemon juice, I'll do Cavitas. So I found the things that I can do within the bitter palette, but
Love it.
they throw me over.
Love it. Love it. Well, it's such a great time because people have access to this information, number one. But just because we get this information in our hand doesn't mean that we're going to be able to apply it. Things are going to come up, things are going to happen in our lives. And during the launch of your first book, people would be surprised. They'd be absolutely surprised to see what you were going through personally and with your oldest son specifically. And it kind of changed the course of your life forever. And I'd love for you to talk about that. Your brand new book, which I said I could hardly put down. Um, I would love if you could share that story, a little bit of that story
All right.
and, what you took away from it.
And I'm going to frame this. First of all, what's different about writing a book like this versus a diet book is no one ever, Sean, said, I couldn't put the virgin diet down.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
True. Yeah.
right? You write a book like this and it's so different.
Yeah.
And after the fact, this will be a good pre-frame. I was asking my community last year, I go, if you're not where you want to be in your health, why is it? fully expecting them to say, oh, I can't give up my sugar, or, oh, I'm not, I just can't stop the cheese, right?
Yeah.
That's what I expect, especially with like the community I have. And nope, that's not what they said. Overwhelming response was, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel worthy. Blew me away there. You could have knocked me over with a feather. And it just made me realize that the reality is there's strategies all over the place, right?
Yeah. True.
But we can never get further than what our mindset says we're capable of and who we are. So that's the pre-frame of it. Now, the Virgin diet, when it was like weeks from coming out, and from doing a book, like the last couple of weeks before your book comes out are just sheer insanity of the things that you cannot believe you have to get done. And a lot of pressure on you because of the publishers and everyone counting on you. And I have a team who works with me, and a lot of single moms and people who rely on me to support their families. And I'm a single mom, and I'm the financial support for my family. And I had a 15-year-old boy and a 16-year-old boy. So, deciding to go take time off, not an option here. And I had everything invested in this book and book launch, and I borrowed money too. So that's the setup. Okay. It's a couple weeks out. My son and I are actually having a bit of an argument, as can happen with teenage boys. And he looks at me. He was barefoot in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, didn't have anything with him, looks at me, says, Mom, I'm not as strong as you think I am, and storms out the door, slams it, leaves. And this is just as it's getting to be dusk. And I thought, should I go follow him, or I'll just let him go blow off some steam? I mean, we live in a super safe neighborhood. I'm like, so I went into the gym in my garage and I started doing some burst trading. And the next thing I know, my 15-year-old runs in and says, Mom, Grant's been hit by a car and he got airlifted to the local hospital. And so we race over there, and not knowing what we're going to find because they will not release any information to us. We get there, and these doctors, now I know he's been airlifted, so this is bad. And we get there, and the doctors take us into a conference room and start asking questions like, what was he doing out? Why wasn't he wearing shoes? And I'm like, hold it. What is going on with my son? And they said that he'd been hit by a car. It was a hit and run. He had a torn aorta. That kills 90% of the people on the scene. This is how your blood gets oxygenated and returned to your heart. You must have this. And it was hanging on by an onion skin, and it was going to burst sometime in the next 24 hours. Had to be repaired. And he had multiple brain bleeds called diffuse axonal injuries. He was in a deep coma. And the reason this is so important is, in order for them to fix his aorta at this hospital, they had to use blood thinners. And they couldn't use blood thinners because his brain would bleed out. And besides that, he had 13 fractures. He was covered with road rash, glass sticking out of him. I mean, just as my son, my 15-year-old describes him as a heap of a human. But they said, we can't do this surgery here. And we'd already discovered, because of, our family, we have doctors in the family, that there was a doctor who could do the surgery without a blood thinner. And they said, yeah, but he'll never survive the airlift to that hospital in LA. And even if he survives the airlift, he's not going to make it through surgery. And even in the off chance that he survived that surgery, he'll be so brain damaged, it wouldn't be worth it. My younger son, Bryce, looks at him and says, so like a 0.25% chance, you think? The doctor says, yep, that's about right, son. And here's my son, Bryce. This is so my son. He goes, we'll take those odds. We just were like, we're overruling you. And we did. And we got him airlifted to this hospital, drove there at 3 a.m. I had no idea if I was picking up a corpse, what I was going to see. Thankfully, I have a lot of friends on the East Coast who talked me through that one as I drove through. I got there, and we had this hero of a surgeon who's like, I got this. I can totally fix this. Do not worry. You go up to the waiting room. I'll come fix him. I'll come get you. We had this, vascular team. We had an orthopedic surgery team. We had a neurosurgery team, a critical care, both a pediatric and an adult one, all working on him. And he comes up and he goes, okay, I fixed it. It's all good. He goes, now, I don't know if he'll ever wake up. That's the brain guys. I'm just the plumber. Like, great. But I walked in to see him, and it is, he's in a deep coma, And I'm looking at this, and here I am, and I'm thinking, okay, he's in a coma. I've got this book coming out, and I've got to make all of this happen. And so I made a decision right then and there that I was going to operate from the guiding principle that he was going to be 110%. Because I figure if I fall short, that's way better than saying, hey, I just hope he's alive. So
Right.
I was like, you're going to be 110%. I kept telling him, I told everyone who would listen, I put signs up, that was it. Grant's going to be 110%. Everyone in the hospital thought I was a total lunatic, but they also started treating me differently, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because they knew I wasn't going to accept. They'd come in and say, "Oh, we're just trying to get him to be able to walk again." I go, "He's Kobe Bryant. Treat him like Kobe Bryant. What would you do for Kobe Bryant? If you can't do that, you're fired." So it was like very different thing. But the other thing I realized there, because I had to make the book work, so I literally launched my New York Times bestseller from the ICU because I had to. And, you know, when you're looking at this, you go, okay, if it didn't take care of my son and my other son, and it didn't move my book forward, it was out. I just cut everything else out of my life. And I made a decision right there that the most important thing I could do to make all of this happen was to practice extreme self-care.
Yeah.
Which people hear and they're like, are you nuts? Because people are like, oh, have a pizza, relax. I'm like, extreme self-care. Because I know, like, you can't walk into the ICU sick, right? You know, my son was at such an infection risk. I always had to be gloved and masked and gowned. But I also I had to be like extremely focused. And I was dealing with a very high level of stress. And I think back to this, Sean, because, you know, we're in the health field. And the biggest thing people tell me in the health field is, I'll do that tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
They'll say,
Yeah.
I'll try it or I'll do it tomorrow. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, what if someone's faced in this situation and they weren't at the level of health? I walked in like ready for a battle.
Yeah.
You know, I already was in that level of health, and it made me realize, man, you know, so many people have their health holding them back, thinking that they can do it tomorrow. And you don't know when something's going to happen like this or some great opportunity. And, you know,
Yeah.
tomorrow's too late.
Yeah. This reminds me of the statement that I'm really living by, which is stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And I love that. You were already coming into it with such an empowered state. And that is the most unimaginable. I don't think you can think of something more devastating than what that experience was for you. And I'm wondering what was in you? Was it because you already were preparing? You already had that warrior mindset coming into it? Because most people in that situation, you know this already, they would absolutely throw in the towel with their own health and well-being and see things kind of spiral out of control. And I've seen this firsthand. I know you have as well. What was it about you? How did you get yourself to turn on that, extreme self-care time?
You know, at the time, it was all instinctual. You know, and one of the things I like to say is habit creates this great structure that creates ultimate freedom because you don't have to think about it. I already was doing 8 hours of sleep, having my morning shake, eating correctly. It was just how I lived. Getting up in gratitude every morning, literally, and writing in a journal. I kept those things going. But when I got through the initial part of it, the first 4.5 months he was in the hospital, which, by the way, were way easier than the next 4 years of helping him come through this brain injury. And people started to go like, how the heck did you do this? Like, are you Superwoman? And the reality is, I started to talk to other friends in our community, Dr. Alan Christensen, Dr. Pedram Shojai, and I started talking to everybody. And I go, oh my gosh, you know, Cynthia, Pascuala, Garcia, and everybody who I think of as just a rock star who's doing things, big things in the world, they'd all gone through a lot of challenges. And the reality is it's kind of a reframe. And I'm going to put it in terms of muscle because I'm like a gym gal. And I thought, you know, really what allowed me to save my son and allowed our family to save our son was our mindset. Bryce telling the doctor, we'll take those odds. Me deciding he was going to be 110%. Grant telling the gray man who did come down and ask him if he wanted to live or die, that he wanted to live. You know, was that decision that we all made to fight for it. And we were able to do that because, you know, hey, I've gone through challenge after challenge after challenge in my life. And here's the thing about that. You want to. this is fantastic because every time you have to lean into fear, get courageous, and then get through it, your comfort zone expands, you are more capable, you realize that you become more resilient, and you can show up bigger and bigger and bigger. So by the time this thing had come to me, I'd been through a lot of challenges in my life. This was way bigger than any I'd seen, but it also wasn't my first rodeo, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. There's a big thing that I just took away in that moment, and just in your last statement, is that time heals. And I think that that's a really powerful, it's a very powerful doctor out there. And we think when we're in the moment, in the situation, that oftentimes like it's the end of the world, you know, like this is where I end. This is what's going to take me down. This is going to destroy everything. And it's just not so. It's not so 99.99999% of the time. But our brains, we are hardwired to jump to that negative. But
well, the amygdala is going to go into fear. And it's been interesting having Grant come out of this brain injury, because at first he went back to all the bad things that ever happened in his life because he was trying to protect himself. Yeah. But what's been interesting is I just interviewed him, and I did not expect to hear the things he was telling me. And literally I said, Grant, if you could go back 4.5 years, he goes, I'd have it all happen all over again. It was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh,
and you
goodness. Hear
this from, but he's not unique or special in that. Yes, this is our story, but it's so universal. How many people have you heard say that horrible thing that happened, that worst thing was actually the best thing?
Yeah.
Because like, when do you get better, cooler, smarter? Do you get that way when life is easy for you? Nope. You get it when you're challenged. And I think it's an important lesson that I've now kind of said, gosh, I wish I'd kind of thought this through when my kids were younger, because as parents, we want our kids to have it easier than we had it. And that actually is not what we should be doing.
Right. Yeah.
Right. They've got to get challenged and step up, and get challenged and step up. You build that miracle mindset muscle, and you get to a point where, like, my 15-year-old son, who's now 19, what's going to throw him at this point? Right.
Yeah.
Powerful.
This reminds me of the quote from Jim Rohn when he said, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better.
Yeah, that's the one I've taken off of there. Don't wish it was easier, make yourself stronger.
Yes. And we all have that capability. And also I'm hearing, and this is really important because, and I've said this many times as well, JJ, is the best thing that ever happened to me was getting diagnosed with an so-called incurable spinal condition, losing my future, really, my capacity to move around, my sense of self, my sense of purpose, to hit rock bottom was the best thing that ever happened to me, because that's why I'm standing here today and talking with everybody listening and being able to talk to you. If it wasn't for that, I was lost. I probably wouldn't even be here. But it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But what our mission is, and so everybody listening, you've been through stuff before. You've been through tough stuff. But those are all the things that make you you. Those are all the things that make you so phenomenal and capable. And I think we also need to speak to people, and why you're doing what you're doing as well, is helping people to lean into that discomfort. Yeah. So you don't have to have life smack you with something. And this is what I wanted to really, I'm so grateful for you to share some of your story, is that and I didn't know you were going to say this, but I knew you were going to say this. You were prepared coming into it because of the work you were doing to create the person that you are. And you said it's not your first rodeo, and really that self-care. So this is the call to action, everybody. This is the time. You don't really know what's going to happen. You're not in control of everything going on around you. How about you do your best to be prepared for whatever life might bring your way? And through that, have faith that the things that seem like they're going to be too difficult, you can get through. This too shall pass.
Yeah, look at Navy SEAL training, or even just being a fireman. Yeah. They don't go to the firehouse and say, okay, when a fire happens, I'll learn how to put my gear on and get on get on the truck, and how to pull the hose. It's like you get ready now. And the important takeaway there, Sean, when I was looking at all of this and why I decided to write the book, do the movie, do the course, is once I had this hypothesis that your mindset's a muscle and that it can be developed, and that you don't have to go through what I went through in order to be so much more capable, to show up in a way bigger way, to get stronger, that you can actually build that through simple things that you do on a daily basis will continue to push you out of your comfort zone. With the biggest one you just mentioned is when something that scares you happens, instead of shying away from it, step into it, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, just as you're talking, I keep feeling so inspired, and just looking at that courage that I have within me that can be dormant sometimes. And everybody has that same capacity. When those things start to get to you and ruffle your feathers and move you into fear. And it's really as simple as that, is stepping into it and claiming that strength. So what is the miracle mindset? What would you say that the miracle mindset is, so that we can start to grasp onto that and develop that for ourselves?
So it is, and there's this cool psychologist who looked at this differential between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Fixed mindset being life happens to me, I'm a victim, right? Growth mindset being life happens by me and through me, and I can change my beliefs and attitudes in the way that I think. This is not something I'm stuck into. And so what I looked at there was, okay, so now the premise is we can develop this. We're not, given this at birth. This is how we can develop our own mindset. What are the attributes? What are the characteristics that would make this up? And we've talked about some of them. And what I did was I looked at people in our circle, again, all these people who like Pedram and Dave, and I went through and I went, what are the attributes? What are the common attributes here? Courageous, resilient, living in the present, the ability to forgive, one that Dave Asprey personally helped me really nail and changed my life. I'm forever grateful to him. Living in the present, being an action taker. I'm amazed how many people won't take action because they feel like they've got to have it perfect, right? Viewing things in an abundant way rather than this scarcity mindset. And then being collaborative, which means not just helping other people, but also taking that vulnerable step to ask for help.
Yeah. I want to take a step back here. I want to talk about this scarcity versus abundance mindset a little bit more, because this is something that scares me about people.
It scares you? Oh, it scares you about people.
Yes. Okay. Now, this is, I think, fundamentally, that when you're operating from scarcity, you will do things that are not righteous. You will do things that are not within who you really want to be in your character. You'll cut corners. You'll sacrifice your integrity. And I think that one of the most important things we can do is to shift gears. And it's literally like a switch you flip in your mind to really see that there's so much abundance around you. It's not just about the resources you have, it's the resourcefulness, right?
Yes.
It just because you don't have, $100,000 to make a new movie, maybe you have relationships, maybe you have gifts and time and services that you can offer. Maybe you have, contacts. Maybe you have, it's just about being resourceful. If you're creative enough, if you're curious enough and ask the right questions, you can get to some form or fashion of an answer and something to create the resources, So Please talk about this, because I think this is huge for people really operating at their highest level.
Oh my gosh, I love this topic. And in the book, the lesson is your limitations will become your life. In a book, what I talk about, and I think the doctors just didn't want me to have false expectations, And hey, I'm all over having huge expectations, because I believe you get what you expect. And so I remember the orthopedic surgeons coming in, and Grant had a crushed heel injury, which I didn't even pay any attention to at first, because big deal, it's a heel, right? I was worried about his heart and brain. Right. But he had this heel, and literally he had a pin sticking out of it, a big open wound, this weird cast, and they didn't know what to do, because as he started to come out of the coma, he's thrashing around. They were hanging him, his leg. It was crazy. And I go, what is going on here? And they go, we're just trying to get him to be able to walk again. And that's when I'm like, you know what? Pretend he's Kobe Bryant. Right. That's where we're going to take him. And it's so interesting, because when you see someone operating from scarcity, they actually create their own reality, right? Because the more you hold in, I especially see this with money. I love the 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity by Edwina Gaines, where she says, tithe, give 10% away, so much more will come back. I remember early on, I have gone through periods of being super broke. I mean, nothing's ever been given to me. I've created all of it myself, but I give away a ton of money and resources and time. And I always have, even when I was totally broke, totally broke. I remember giving away my last $500 to a girlfriend who was in the same boat as me, but I knew I could be resourceful and find it. And you know what? I just believe the universe provides when you do that stuff. And when you try to hold on to it, you basically shut off that energetic flow. So you will create that reality of living in scarcity. And one of the easiest muscles to start doing is looking every day, going, what can I do to help somebody else? One of the first things that we did for Grant was in the was home, and he felt like he had no purpose, which was so interesting to me, Sean, that a 17-year-old was concerned about his purpose. That's just, super concerned about his purpose. And I find that when you're scared, when you're freaked out, when you don't know what's going on, one of the easiest things you can do is go out and help other people, and give something away. And that's what we did. We went to the hospital, the last hospital he'd been at, Children's Hospital. We brought Christmas presents. We gave a bunch of things away. He went and shared with everybody. And then I saw a little family there. And honestly, I think everybody at Christmas time should have to go to a children's hospital when they're like feeling, oh, poor me, or I didn't get enough presents, or any other garbage self-talk like that.
Yeah.
Go into a children's hospital and just give your time, read to kids, and you will shift your mindset in a minute. We were there, and there was this 16-year-old girl there with her parents. Her parents had basically, done everything they could to get her to this hospital, because children's hospitals will take kids no matter what the financial situation. The parents were from Guam. They're living in the Ronald McDonald House nearby, and they've got 3 more kids at home. She just lost her brother to leukemia, and they found out that she had it when they were testing her bone marrow for her to be a donor. Yep. So the parents have just lost their one son. I mean, I still get chills with this one. And here's this 16-year-old girl, and my son's now talking to her, telling her, his story, giving her hope. I call my son Walking Hope. And she's just saying, I just wish I could see my sisters. And I'm thinking, I am getting her sisters out here. Yeah. So I go to the parents. I go, listen, I have all these airline miles. I'm going to fly your daughters out. And the woman's like, oh, no, you can't do that. I'm like, yes, I can. Yes, I can. So I call up the airline, like, this is the best idea ever. I don't even know where Guam is, admittedly. I did find out.
It's on Earth somewhere.
It's somewhere. This is why I will never go on the Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader show ever, ever. But I do find out that American Airlines, where all my miles are, does not fly to Guam. And, but I have already committed this, and I already saw this like hope in the little girl's eyes. And I'm like, I'll sell my car if I have to get these kids here. And it was a stretch. It's super expensive to fly people from Guam, 3 of them. But I'll tell you, the picture that I got of those kids, the daughters reuniting with their sister, who unfortunately died shortly thereafter, but at least they all got to be together. Yeah. That is in my top 10 of things in my life, right? And was it hard to do at the time? Yeah. Did I have to stretch to get the money to do that? Yes, I did. Would I have a bigger experience right now having that money, that, who knows where it would have gone, or having that knowledge that I did that? What I'd take every single time. Yeah. It's so much bigger. And, there's opportunities all around us. And every time you step into abundance and you stop trying to hold tight to everything that you have, I've made it in my business, I teach whatever I do, I teach to other healthcare professionals. And I've had people say, are you crazy? That's your competition. I go, there's no competition. Yes. There's not enough of us to ever support what we need to do out in the world. Yeah. And let's just share. And if it makes my business, my personal business, a little smaller, but it makes everybody else's businesses bigger, and we impact more people, win, right? Yes. Total win. Yeah. So I'm a big on the abundance thing, man. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. And this is so refreshing to hear. And I've been saying this a lot lately, that it's not about you. It's not about me and my little self. This is about the bigger picture. because literally we are all connected. We are all of the same organism here on this planet. And if I'm able to do something to uplift and help the life of one person, I'm really, and it's so interesting how we call them walking hope and shifting that moment of lack of purpose. And I said the same thing, and I was right around that age when I felt this lack of purpose. And what was so crazy, what brought me out of that was helping other people. Once I was able to just get myself out the door and start walking in a good direction, I was able to just help that first person. And I still remember her name. And, it was at my university because she was just like, what are you doing? Because you're starting to look so healthy as compared to how you were. And I was like, well, I'll show you, And so we are always in a position, no matter how bad things may seem, there's always somebody that you can serve. There's always somebody that you can help. And I think that I'm so glad about just talking about this today because this is a part of our overall wellness as well.
Yeah.
It's our lifeline is tied to this, tied to our sense of purpose, tied to our service, and being able to help another human being or many human beings absolutely lights you up. And you just shared that, it's in your top 10 of all life experiences, which you've had many. And it was something that you just stepped up and made a decision to invest in somebody else. And so we all have that capacity in one way or another to do that. So thank you for talking about that. And this whole story of yours, which I'm totally blown away that you took the time and energy and all the moving pieces to actually do a movie about this. So let's talk a little about this.
Sean. It was one of those things like, I know what I'll do. And I'm really glad that I did it now. But if we'd been talking in the middle of it, I would be like, oh my gosh, because what I didn't really think about when this all came to be, and my literary agent was the one who pushed me on all of this, because when she's been with me through all of this and so supportive. She was pregnant with twins and nearly lost them and had to go against the doctor's orders. It was like my story all over again. And she goes, I just kept channeling you. I just kept channeling you. You have to write the book. You have to write the book. So, and for both my Virgin Diet and Sugar Impact Diet, I did a public television special that was a pledge show. But I'm thinking this is like, wouldn't really work as a pledge show. This is kind of, it turns out that my PBS producer is a documentary producer. And I thought, man, maybe this could be kind of like the next level of The Secret, really helping people, because I didn't want something that just inspired. I want them to get inspired to see what's possible. The story's specific, but the lessons are universal, whether it's you're struggling in a relationship or you're struggling financially or you're struggling in your career or your health. You can never outgrow your mindset. And you've got to actively focus on up-leveling your mindset to do so. Like, I realize now that before you actually go into a health program or before you go into a relationship, you've got to fix your mindset first. Yeah. And then it needs to be something just like you're going to the gym that you're working on expanding on a regular basis. But it turns out it's not like this overwhelming, oh my gosh, okay, now we're going to spend an hour a day learning it's such simple things that you build in as habits that can just transform your life in minutes, which is what's so crazy.
Oh man, you know what? Why I'm excited about this is that today there's a lot of negative media. There's a lot of things to get caught up in. And little do we know that all of these things are literally creating our structure in our brain. They're literally determining what our neurons are doing. We've got these mirror neurons, and they are literally simulating everything that you're exposed to and creating these programs, creating new synaptic connections in your brain and firing for whatever these negative messages you're exposing yourself to. So I'm so grateful that you've done this to create this film, to give us more positive media. The story, like you said, is unique, but the principles are universal. These are things that we can all pull away and to share your story, to share Grant's experience. Like those are the other movies. When you see somebody coming out of a coma, you don't really know what that is. And to hear that story that you shared in your book was just absolute. It just changed my paradigm, and to know what it took, but to know all the while, like the thread through all of it that colored the entire story was your strength, your perseverance, your readiness, even though at times you didn't feel strong, but
I was
because
scared to death. I always want to put that in there because people are like, oh, you were bad. You were like a mama. And it's like, yes, I was a mama bear. Don't think I wasn't scared. Of course I was. Like, and there were some dark times. And I have an amazing community who was supporting me through all of this as well. But yes, we're stronger than we think. People say to me, Sean, they go, I could never have done that. I go, yes, you could, and you can do more. You can do more.
Yes.
You are stronger than you think.
Absolutely. And you've got a free screening of the movie for a limited time. And you guys are going to be able to check it out at miraclemindset.com/model. So that's miraclemindset.com/model. And you're going to be able to see the movie for free screening, limited time. So make sure you take action now because it's available from when? Can you tell us a little bit about it and when it's going to be available for people?
Yes, we are doing an online screening. It's going into some different outlets, but I kind of cobbled it and said I want some time ahead of time before that. So from February 8th through the 16th, we might do a little extended holiday weekend, we'll see. But I know for the 8th through the 16th, we are doing this online screening of it. So you can jump in to that link that you just said and watch the movie. And my big recommendation as you're watching this movie is to get your family together to watch it too.
Yeah.
It is that type of a movie. It's super impactful. It's very uplifting. And there's a lot of really good discussion points in there that are going to be really helpful. I mean, I'm amazed now to hear when I just interviewed my son, Grant, because I was shocked to hear him saying all of these things that are in the book and in the movie. So you want these things around your children. You want these things in your relationships, your friends, your spouses. It's going to make everything better.
Perfect. Thank you so much, JJ. Well, it's been amazing talking with you. And I've got a final question for you. I'd love to hear your answer on. What is the model that you're here to set with the way that you're living your life personally?
What is the model that I'm here to set? The biggest model I really want to set, I've always operated as if you peeked behind and saw my life that, it could be written up anywhere. So I try to live in integrity every single day with everything I do. I'm not going to tell someone to start the day with a shake or do burst training or sleep 8 hours unless I'm doing it. But the bigger thing that I think is so important for all of us, and one I've been really living, is being open to possibility. It's a great line from improv training that instead of going, yes, but in your life, start your life and go through it and say, yes, and.
Perfect. JJ, thank you so much. Can you let everybody know where they can connect with you online?
Sure. jjvirgin.com is my website, and we have a super active Facebook community. I do a ton of Facebook Lives. I'm kind of addicted to them at JJ Virgin Official on Facebook.
Well, thank you so much, JJ. I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your courage. I appreciate you stepping up and saying yes to this mission and sharing your story. Like, I'm so grateful. So grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show today. Wow, what an amazing story. And JJ is the real deal and a half. She's the real deal, Holyfield, with both ears, though. All right, Holyfield kind of had a little something happen, and he's missing a chunk of his ear. Mike Tyson, long story short. Anyways, she's the real deal. So make sure to connect with her. Make sure to check out miraclemindset.com/model for the free screening of the film. She put a lot into it, and she shared with me what went into making it happen, and just absolutely amazing story. And her book is going to be coming soon as well, so make sure to stay on the lookout for that. Just so many great things to absorb, and the big takeaway from today is that, number one, we started with there's a lot of misinformation out there about the nutrition that we're taking in, and it's still being taught in universities today about the way to exercise. And she mentioned one of those things where, and I would share this stuff as a trainer, strength and conditioning coach, 15 years ago as well, that, you've got to be training at this amount of time to get into your, quote, fat burning zone, being taught by other people these ridiculous things like, if you don't eat as soon as you wake up in the morning, your metabolism is not on. If your metabolism is not on, you're dead. You're actually not alive. And this is not The Walking Dead. This is real life. And so there are all these crazy things, but the great thing is that even assimilating that information, it takes you on a step of progress to learn and to experience things firsthand and ask questions. And I think it's most important to continue to ask questions. And she's got great information out there about our relationship with sugar. Food is our friend for sure. It makes us who we are, and having a great relationship with that, but not showing that we're lacking sweetness in our life by going ham on sugar all the time, no matter the natural or what unnatural, whatever the case may be. We need to understand what it is and what it does to our body and have a good relationship with it. Because shout out to pancakes, all right? Shout out to pancakes. Shout out to all of your favorite tasty treats. But also we need to be well-rounded and make sure that we're resilient, because the bottom line for this episode today is stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And a big part and parcel of that is the nutrition you're taking in. It is the lifestyle practices, your meditation, your stress management, your exercise practices. Get on board with the good stuff. And that's what we're providing you here with on the Model Health Show, and as well as JJ's work as well. So miraclemindset.com/model. Guys, I appreciate you so much for tuning into the show. We've got some amazing shows coming up, amazing guests. So stay tuned. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk with you soon.